The sirens pierced through the quiet Alabama night like screams from hell itself. Inside the emergency room at Montgomery General Hospital, chaos erupted as paramedics rushed through the sliding doors, wheeling in a man whose body was literally destroying itself from the inside out. His screams echoed through the corridors as doctors huddled around him, their faces pale with horror. "His tissue is necrotizing faster than we've ever seen," whispered Dr. Sarah Mitchell to her colleague. "It's like something is eating him alive, and we don't know what." The man's name was Michael Thompson, a 44-year-old construction worker who, just 12 hours earlier, had been on what he thought was the perfect date. Now, as medical professionals worked frantically to save his life, one question haunted everyone in that emergency room. How did one night of passion turn into this living nightmare? The woman who had called 911 stood in the corner, tears streaming down her face, claiming she had no idea what could have happened. Her name was Rebecca Williams, and she appeared to be the picture of innocence, a soft-spoken nurse who had met Michael through a dating app. But what happened inside that bedroom would horrify doctors, puzzle investigators, and spark a criminal case that nobody saw coming. Because sometimes the person you trust most is the one who wants to destroy you. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Who was this Alabama construction worker who trusted the wrong person with his life? A hard-working man seeking companionship after a painful divorce, or someone whose desperation made him an easy target? Who was the mysterious woman who weighed nearly 400 pounds but carried herself with surprising confidence? The caring nurse she claimed to be, or a predator hiding behind medical credentials? Was this simply a freak medical nightmare that could happen to anyone, or was this the calculated act of someone who had perfected the art of destruction? Why did Michael's body react so violently to something that should have been intimate and beautiful? And most chilling of all, why were there traces of industrial chemicals found in his bloodstream? Chemicals that had no business being anywhere near a human body? These are the questions that would consume investigators for months. Questions that would lead them down a dark path of deception, manipulation, and a pattern of victims that stretched back years. The truth would be darker than anyone expected, because Rebecca Williams had a secret that would shock even the most experienced detectives. Michael Thompson was the kind of man Alabama was built on: honest, hardworking, and loyal to a fault. At 44, he had spent 2 decades in construction, building homes for families, while his own marriage crumbled under the weight of financial stress and growing apart. The divorce had been finalized just 8 months before he met Rebecca, and friends described him as a broken man trying to piece his life back together. He lived alone in a modest rental house on the outskirts of Montgomery, spending his evenings watching sports and wondering if he'd ever feel whole again. Rebecca Williams presented herself as the answer to his prayers. Her online dating profile showed a woman with kind eyes and a warm smile, describing herself as a registered nurse who loved helping people heal. At 38, she claimed to understand pain and loss, having recently ended her own marriage. Her messages were filled with empathy and encouragement, telling Michael that he deserved happiness and that she could see the good man beneath the hurt. She sent photos of herself cooking elaborate meals, always mentioning how she loved taking care of people. Their first conversation lasted 4 hours, with Rebecca sharing stories about her work at a medical supply company and her passion for alternative healing methods. She seemed genuinely interested in Michael's construction projects, asking detailed questions about his work and praising his skill and dedication. For the first time since his divorce, Michael felt understood. He found himself looking forward to her daily messages, which always arrived like clockwork at 6 p.m., just when the loneliness hit hardest. But neighbors in Rebecca's apartment complex would later tell investigators about strange deliveries arriving at all hours, unmarked packages that she would quickly bring inside. They remembered the chemical smell that sometimes drifted from her windows and the way she would avoid eye contact when passing in the hallways. One neighbor recalled hearing what sounded like someone crying at 2 a.m., but when she knocked to check, Rebecca claimed everything was fine and quickly closed the door. What nobody knew, including Michael, was that this wasn't the first time men around Rebecca Williams had fallen mysteriously ill. In fact, over the past 3 years, at least 4 men from different Alabama counties had experienced sudden, severe medical emergencies after intimate encounters. But the symptoms were so bizarre and the men so embarrassed that most never reported the full details to authorities. The date began like something out of a romantic movie. Michael picked Rebecca up at her apartment on a warm Saturday evening in March, his hands trembling slightly as he knocked on her door. When she answered, she was wearing a flowing blue dress that complemented her figure and a genuine smile that made his heart race. She had prepared a homemade dinner, pot roast with vegetables, fresh bread, and what she claimed was her grandmother's secret apple pie recipe. They ate by candlelight at her small dining table, talking about their dreams and fears with an intimacy that surprised them both. Rebecca shared stories about difficult patients she had helped recover, and Michael opened up about the loneliness that had consumed him since his divorce. She listened with such understanding, occasionally reaching across to touch his hand, that he felt himself falling for her completely. For the first time in months, he felt alive again, like he was more than just a man going through the motions of existence. After dinner, they moved to her couch, where Rebecca served wine and they continued talking until nearly midnight. She was funny and intelligent, making him laugh in ways he had forgotten were possible. When she suggested they take things to the bedroom, it felt natural and right. Michael had been intimate with only his ex-wife for over 20 years, and being with Rebecca felt like awakening from a long sleep. She was gentle and caring, whispering words of affection that made him believe he had finally found someone who could love him as he was. But at 3:17 a.m., Michael's eyes shot open in agony. A burning sensation was spreading through his most intimate areas, as if acid was eating through his flesh. He stumbled to the bathroom, gasping in horror at what he saw. The swelling was immediate and severe, and the pain was unlike anything he had ever experienced. Rebecca appeared in the doorway, claiming she had heard his cries. She seemed genuinely shocked and concerned, immediately calling 911 while trying to comfort him. By the time paramedics arrived, Michael was delirious with pain, and his body was showing signs of systemic poisoning. His blood pressure was dangerously high, his temperature was spiking, and the tissue damage was spreading rapidly. As they loaded him into the ambulance, one paramedic whispered to his partner, "I've never seen anything like this. It looks like chemical burns, but from the inside out." Rebecca followed the ambulance to the hospital, acting like a devoted girlfriend who was horrified by the mysterious illness that had struck her new love. But investigators would soon realize that Rebecca Williams had a past that would change everything they thought they knew about that night. The emergency room at Montgomery General became a war zone as medical professionals fought to save Michael's life. Dr. Sarah Mitchell had seen industrial accidents and chemical burns, but nothing compared to the systematic tissue destruction happening inside Michael's body. The damage was spreading with frightening speed, and traditional treatments were proving ineffective. "It's like watching flesh-eating bacteria," she told the surgical team, "but the pattern is all wrong. This looks deliberate." While doctors worked frantically to stabilize Michael, Detective James Rodriguez began what he assumed would be a routine medical emergency investigation. But something about Rebecca Williams bothered him. Her story was consistent, perhaps too consistent, and she seemed more concerned about appearing devastated than actually helping. When he asked about Michael's medical history, she provided detailed answers about conditions she claimed he had mentioned, conditions that his actual medical records showed he had never had. The breakthrough came when Detective Rodriguez decided to run Rebecca's name through the state database. What he found made his blood run cold. Over the past 3 years, 4 men in different Alabama counties had been hospitalized with similar symptoms after meeting women who matched Rebecca's physical description. In Mobile, a 39-year-old teacher named David Chen had required emergency surgery after a date with a woman calling herself Sarah Johnson. In Huntsville, construction worker Robert Miller had spent 2 weeks in intensive care following an encounter with someone named Patricia Davis. Each time the woman had disappeared after the hospitalization, leaving false contact information. Detective Rodriguez contacted these men, and their stories were remarkably similar. Each had met their dates through online platforms, each had been served homemade meals, and each had experienced the same horrifying symptoms between 2 to 4 a.m. after intimacy. Most telling, each woman had claimed to work in healthcare and had shown unusual knowledge about their symptoms, knowledge that seemed designed to misdirect medical treatment rather than help. The media frenzy began when news outlets got wind of the investigation. Headlines screamed, "Alabama's Mystery Woman, Angel of Mercy or Angel of Death." Rebecca's photo appeared on every local news station, with reporters camping outside her apartment building. Neighbors who had previously ignored the strange smells and late-night deliveries suddenly remembered concerning details. Mrs. Patterson from apartment 3B recalled seeing Rebecca carrying what looked like medical equipment bags at odd hours. Another neighbor mentioned hearing someone crying and pleading late at night, sounds that Rebecca had dismissed as sad movies when questioned. The investigation took a darker turn when forensics teams obtained a warrant to search Rebecca's apartment. What they found would shock even seasoned investigators who thought they had seen everything. If this part is making sense to you, drop a comment with "I'm still here." Let's see who's really watching this unfold. The truth investigators uncovered would leave everyone asking how one woman could hide such darkness behind a facade of caring and compassion. The search of Rebecca Williams's apartment revealed a horrifying laboratory of destruction disguised as a caring woman's home. Hidden in a locked bedroom closet, investigators found over 30 vials of industrial chemicals, including substances used in metal processing, laboratory research, and agricultural pest control. But most chilling was a detailed notebook filled with handwritten observations about chemical reactions, dosages, and what appeared to be experimental notes on human subjects. Detective Rodriguez read entries that made his stomach turn. Subject 3 required higher concentration. Reaction began at 2.5 hours, but insufficient tissue damage. Must adjust delivery method. Another entry read, Subject 4 showed promise but sought medical help too quickly. Need to create confusion about symptoms to delay proper treatment. The notebook contained detailed profiles of each victim, including their medical histories, fears, and psychological vulnerabilities. The forensics team discovered that Rebecca had been using her employment at Medical Supply Solutions to obtain restricted chemicals. Her supervisor, Dr. Patricia Hayes, revealed that Rebecca had been ordering unusual substances under the guise of research projects that didn't exist. She was brilliant, Dr. Hayes admitted to investigators. She understood chemistry better than most of our lab technicians. I never questioned her orders because she could explain the scientific rationale for everything. But the most disturbing discovery came when investigators found Rebecca's computer. Her browser history revealed extensive research into untraceable poisons, methods for causing maximum pain with minimal detection, and most horrifying forums where she discussed her activities with others who shared her interests. Under the username Healing Angel, she had detailed her methods and celebrated her successes in causing suffering while maintaining the appearance of innocence. Court documents revealed a pattern that stretched back even further than investigators had initially suspected. Rebecca had been perfecting her methods for over 5 years, targeting vulnerable men who were recently divorced, lonely, and desperate for connection. She specifically chose men who were embarrassed about seeking help after intimate encounters, knowing they would delay seeking medical attention. Her victims weren't random. They were carefully selected based on psychological profiles that made them perfect targets for her twisted experiments. Former co-workers painted a picture of a woman who took pleasure in others' pain while maintaining a facade of compassion. Jennifer Martinez, who had worked alongside Rebecca for 2 years, remembered how Rebecca would volunteer for the most difficult patients, claiming she wanted to help those who were suffering the most. But now I realize, Jennifer told investigators, she seemed almost excited when patients took longer to heal or experienced complications. She would stay late to monitor them, but maybe she was just enjoying watching them suffer. The emotional gut punch came when investigators realized that Michael wasn't just the first to survive, he was intended to be Rebecca's masterpiece. The chemical combination found in his system was more sophisticated than any of the previous attacks, suggesting she had been building toward something far more devastating. But the final twist would leave everyone asking whether Rebecca Williams had been working alone, or if there was an even darker network of predators hiding behind the facade of care and compassion. The investigation took an unexpected turn when detectives discovered encrypted communications on Rebecca's computer between her and someone using the codename Caretaker. These messages revealed a network of individuals who shared techniques for causing untraceable harm while maintaining positions of trust in healthcare and social services. The Caretaker appeared to be coaching Rebecca, providing increasingly sophisticated methods and celebrating her progress in causing maximum suffering. Detective Rodriguez worked with cybercrime specialists to trace the communications, leading to a shocking discovery. The Caretaker was Dr. Marcus Webb, a former emergency room physician who had been quietly dismissed from 3 hospitals for attitude issues with patients. Dr. Webb had been recruiting like-minded individuals through dark web forums, creating a network of people who used their medical knowledge and access to harm rather than heal. The courtroom scene was unlike anything Montgomery County had ever witnessed. Rebecca Williams sat calmly as prosecutors detailed her crimes, showing no remorse even when Michael Thompson took the stand to describe his ordeal. His voice shaking with emotion, Michael testified about the physical agony and the deeper trauma of having his trust so completely violated. "I thought I had found someone who could love me," he said, tears streaming down his face. "Instead, I found someone who enjoyed watching me suffer." Rebecca's defense attorney argued that she was manipulated by Dr. Webb and others in the network, claiming she was a victim of psychological manipulation herself. But prosecutor Maria Santos presented evidence of Rebecca's active participation and innovation within the group. Rebecca Williams wasn't a victim, Santos declared. She was a predator who used her medical knowledge and the trust placed in healthcare workers to cause deliberate, calculated harm to innocent people seeking companionship. The jury deliberated for 6 hours before returning a guilty verdict on all counts: attempted murder in the first degree, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and conspiracy to commit murder. Rebecca was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Dr. Webb received a similar sentence when his case went to trial 3 months later, and investigators continued working to identify other members of their network. Michael Thompson survived, but his recovery took over a year of surgeries and therapy. He struggled with trust issues and PTSD, requiring counseling to process the trauma of having his vulnerability weaponized against him. In his victim impact statement, he said, "She didn't just attack my body, she attacked my ability to believe that people can be good. She turned my desire for love into a nightmare that will haunt me forever." The case sparked nationwide discussions about online dating safety and the dangerous potential for healthcare workers to abuse their knowledge and position. Dating platforms implemented new verification systems, and medical facilities across the country reviewed their chemical inventory protocols. But for Michael and the other survivors, no policy changes could undo the damage to their ability to trust and love again. As we reflect on this horrifying case, we're left with questions that extend far beyond Rebecca Williams and her network of accomplices. How many other predators are hiding behind facades of care and compassion? How many vulnerable people seeking connection are walking into traps set by those who take pleasure in causing suffering? Michael Thompson wanted nothing more than to find love after his divorce, a completely natural human desire that was twisted into a weapon against him. Think about your own relationships and the people you trust with your vulnerability. How well do you really know the individuals you let into your most intimate spaces? Rebecca Williams appeared to be everything Michael was looking for: caring, understanding, and professionally respectable. She used his deepest needs against him, turning his hope for healing into a source of unimaginable pain. Do you think Rebecca planned this elaborate scheme from the moment she created her dating profile, or was she genuinely capable of caring before something dark consumed her? Was she born with this capacity for cruelty? Or did her medical knowledge and access to dangerous chemicals slowly corrupt someone who might have once wanted to help people? And perhaps most disturbing of all, how many others like her are out there right now, using dating apps and social media to hunt for their next victims? The survivors of Rebecca's attacks have shown incredible courage in sharing their stories, helping to prevent future victims by exposing the reality of predators who hide behind professional respectability. But they're still dealing with the trauma of having their trust so completely violated. How would you cope with discovering that someone you had intimate feelings for was actually documenting your suffering for their own twisted pleasure? What happened to Michael Thompson could happen to anyone seeking connection in our modern world. The very technologies and social systems designed to bring us together can also be weaponized by those who find joy in others' pain. As you navigate your own relationships, remember that true caring is demonstrated through actions that prioritize your well-being, not words that sound caring while concealing harmful intentions. If you found this story as shocking as we did, let us know in the comments. Do you think Rebecca Williams planned this from the start? Or was this just a medical professional who lost her way? And if you thought this case was disturbing, wait until you hear about what happened in Florida, when a pediatric nurse decided that healing children wasn't enough to satisfy her need for control over life and death. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more true crime stories that expose the darkness hiding behind familiar faces. Because sometimes, the people we trust most are the ones we should fear the most.